To Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. For more than 20 years, nearly 3 decades now, I've been working with accounting professionals to help them start and build successful businesses, offering quality accounting services and obviously getting paid what they're worth. It's in this actually where we focus on things that you can be doing to work on your business, whether it ranges from marketing and selling, pricing to tech stacks, retaining clients, all those things that are essential for you to actually have a successful business. Now, each and every week on the show, we bring on guests, individuals to actually help us understand what it is we can be doing to work on our business. And today's going to be a phenomenal discussion with David Wachs. He happens to be an entrepreneur who actually created a company recently called Handwritten. It provides scalable robotic solutions for your notes in pen, used by businesses in all industries and nonprofits. Handwritten has actually changed the way people connect and communicate. Prior to Handwritten, David actually founded Sell It, a leading mobile marketing platform with clients including Abercrombie and Fitch, Walmart, and many more. Sell It was actually sold back in 2020 or 2012, but today he's working with Handwritten because it's one of those fastest growing businesses. It's actually recently been recognized in Inc. 500 on occasion, and David himself happens to be someone who speaks on this regularly, contributing to the technology that he actually has built. Now, this is something that's been featured in the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and is a contributor to the Inc. 500 or Inc. magazine, if that is the right way to say it, I guess. So, David, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Roger. It's a pleasure.
This is going to be a lot of fun. One of the things that I think is fascinating about this is in business, especially in accounting, we speak of the connection we have with our clients. And so often as accounting professionals, we presume that this is something that doesn't really involve that people interaction. But I always stress that it's the relationships that we're building with our clients that's so essential. And what you offer as a service is, I think, helping with that. So I'm excited to kind of dive into this. But before we even get into the details, give us a little bit of your story as an entrepreneur. What's driven you to start this business?
Yeah, I mean, it dovetails nicely into Handwritten. So Handwritten was started. My last company was Sell It, and
Yes.
we grew from providing service for realtors where you could put a sign in front of your house that said text home 123 to this number to get info on a house. And we kind of switched out of that and we started a more general outreach program for retailers and brands
Yeah.
called Sell It Studio, and that allowed them to send out millions of text messages a day. And I grew that business over 10 years, sold it, and then spent the next 2 years working for the new owner, a private equity-backed company called Hello World, and now it's Merkle.
Okay.
But that process, I realized, text messages work. We were sending millions of them, but at the same time, everybody was getting millions, and everybody's getting 125 emails a day, and they're spending 24% of their day just managing their email inbox. And I thought, gee, I've helped create a problem, and what are people going to do now? And that was back in 2014, and things
Okay.
have only gotten substantially worse since then, thanks to
Yes.
AI and just cheap email spam and all the rest. So, I think now more than ever, trying to differentiate through different forms of outreach, it's really kind of the only way to stand out above the noise, because the inbox, the most underutilized inbox is the one at the end of your driveway. Everything else is overloaded with spam, but there are opportunities to really stand out through the old school handwritten note communication method. And it all started because when I sold the company, I wanted to send a meaningful message to my customers
Okay.
and to my employees. So I sat down with a stack of brand new note cards I got off moo.com, and I started writing them out, and pretty soon my hand got sore, or I ran out of ink, or I ran out of stamps. And I was just like, man, there's got to be a better way. And that's where Handwritten came from.
One of the things that I really appreciate you pointing out is the fact that things have moved to this digital type of interaction of the
Yeah,
texts and also the emails, and it has become overwhelming. And now, what used to be kind of the annoying mail that we would get with all those marketing pieces and so
yeah.
forth, and that junk mail that would come has really depleted. And really, if you start to go back into that postcard type thing or these more personalized letters, they do stand out more than they once did. So I like that kind of distinction. But the same thing, I do want to point out that one of the marketing things that I've seen year over year to be so effective is that personalized note. The fact that you actually took the time to write something personal really can stand out. And we've given suggestions and directions on how to do that effectively for years. I'm curious. One of the things that you've actually done is you've automated it. However,
Mhm.
it's taking what used to be this thing where you get the hand cramps and so forth. And I've experienced that, to automating it. And technology today allows that to happen. I'm curious, is it easy to distinguish between the handwritten letter and the AI one that's now being done robotically?
I would say with us, no. It's not easy at all. We have 35 handwriting styles. We develop them ourselves, and some of them I've looked at for 11 years, so I can see it and immediately know is written by a robot.
Uh-huh.
But other ones, especially if it's a custom style that we designed just for a specific client, that I don't see very often, I'll see the robot writing it and I'll be baffled and be like, God, I can't believe the robot did this. There's a lot of nuance. So just taking a step back there, we do have 200 robots. Each one holds a real pen. It's a Pilot G2 ballpoint pen. You can pick
Uh-huh.
them up at Staples. And all the notes are written, all the envelopes are written, and a real stamp's applied. So yes, you get your glossy junk mail every day, but the average consumer, the average resident, only gets 2 to 3 handwritten notes a month. So we're putting you in that pile of 2 to 3, not the pile of junk mail or the pile of emails. But yeah, so we do a lot to make these notes look really great. So we vary the left margins. So there, it's not like you're writing down a hard edge of a page.
Yeah,
You're kind of going in and out a little bit. And the secret for everything is a little bit. You don't want it to look like the uncanny valley. So
exactly.
then we vary the line spacing so it doesn't look like you wrote on a piece of lined paper, because you
Yeah.
didn't, and nobody would believe that. We vary the letters. So if you look at two O's in a document or three O's, they're all going to look different. And then two O's together look different than two O's apart because you have different ligature combinations. So two T's together, how do you cross them? Do you use one crossbar or two? All of those little nuances, it's very much an art as much as a science. We put it
Yeah.
all together and create something that looks really very authentic.
You know,
I do have samples here, and you can go to our website, of course, to see them too. And of course, my web blur is blurring everything, and for
well,
me
for my
blurring,
audio listeners, they're gonna trust you is what they're gonna do.
yeah. But yes, correct, your audio listeners will have to trust you,
Yeah.
but or visit the website after and see. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of work that goes into this, because we don't want to create anything that would harm our client brands.
Well, one
The
of the
last
things.
thing that the absolute last thing they want to be known as is sending an ingenuine handwritten note.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I appreciated you explaining there is I've seen numerous times printed things that are meant to appear as if they're handwritten, and they're
Yeah,
very clearly not. And
yeah,
what you're describing is obviously something that is technically handwritten. I mean, it's robotic, but nonetheless, it has that actual pen being written. So it's clearly going to stand out differently than something that was printed. The thing I want to drive now into is you've got this technology. How is it applicable? Because you mentioned that there are those people that are getting those one or two letters today that are handwritten. Gone are the days of the birthday cards. I remember as a child writing my grandparents and so forth a birthday card. I remember when I received gifts, I would be asked by my parents to handwrite a thank you note to send back. Those days are practically
yeah,
gone. So I do feel that what we're discussing here is something that does stand out. So I want to go to the application of it.
yeah.
Clearly, we've got the marketing side. This is that side of the business where we're hoping to build a relationship, eventually get a new client to engage with us. How do you find the best practice or uses of handwritten notes, just simply from the standpoint of connecting and marketing with people?
Yeah, so there's really two use cases. One, which it sounds like you're alluding to, which is kind of prospecting.
Yeah.
They, you can use our service for that, but it's going to be expensive because a stamp alone is 78 cents now, and everything
Yeah.
we do has a first class domestic stamp on it. So, that alone, forget about the cost of our platform and or the service itself, but just putting a stamp on there is going to make it expensive. So, if you have a high value offering, and I can't comment on accounting if that's high value, high margin enough to do it, yes, you could blanket an area or blanket all businesses in an area. We do have features on our website where you can say, go after law firms, if you're trying to target your service for law firms or whatever, and then circle on a map law firms in what area, and then you could send handwritten notes to them. That's one use case. And then you can always, of course, provide your own database to do that. By and large, the number one use case is really post relationship. It's really, now that you have a relationship in place, how do you cultivate and foster that relationship over time so your client feels seen? Now, a lot of people, I guess, speaking for myself, I can't say a lot of people, but speaking for myself, my interactions with my accounting firm are negative, not because the accounting firm did anything wrong, but when do you talk to an accounting firm? When you have to do your taxes, which takes a lot of time, is laborious, and in the end, you tend to owe money. Or B, when they send you the bill for the accounting, which is you owe money for that too. So, what can you do to turn that relationship so that the last interaction is not one where you're receiving a bill? That's what I would say. So, Maya Angelou said it best. People don't remember what you say or what you did. They remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
So if you can send a handwritten note to somebody thanking them for their business or whatever that might be, wishing them a happy holiday season, a new year, or birthday cards. We have a whole system for automating birthday cards. When was the last time you got a birthday card from your accountant? That would really stand out and make you different. Those little moments really do mean a lot for people where they feel seen. This is an example from accounting, but another, I guess you could say, professional services firm. It is a piano tuner, and they come to your house once a year. They're based in Pennsylvania, and they tune your piano, and that's it. Just like I'd imagine, and again, pardon my lack of knowledge on accountants, but I imagine, much like accountants, you deal with them seasonally, and then you don't see them again for a year. So this piano tuner, same thing, goes into your home, tunes your piano, and then he's got an automation set up through our platform where he automatically sends you a thank you note saying, thank you for the opportunity to tune your piano and be in, your home, etc. He only has to do that once a year. When he returns to your home a year later, that handwritten note is often standing up on the piano. So not only is it opened, not only is it read, but it's put on display in an area that's usually reserved for family photographs and invitations to weddings or whatever else, the fancy room of the house.
I
So,
love that. That's a wonderful illustration of how
yeah,
impactful this can be. One of the things that I'd like to show is some practical applications that I've observed as I've been in business. And I think these are things that my listeners can relate to is, yes, you said at the very beginning, this is an expensive marketing tool. Now, if you knew your lifetime value of your client, you could perhaps justify it if you had a very
correct.
targeted list. But I do find its practical application after having met with potential customers
Oh,
to,
100%.
like you indicate, or like you mentioned, to actually thank them for their time and to follow up, not with an email, not with a text, but with actually a letter. And that
Yeah,
actually can convey so much more than that text message or email could have, as it related to thanks for the time. I enjoyed our conversation. This was something that was, something I was looking forward to. I look forward to having you or working with you. That type of subtle thank you that can be in a handwritten letter can go so much farther than that email or text message could. The other thing is once you've now onboarded a client, to
yeah,
now welcome them aboard, not with something that's so formal as the engagement agreement, but now something that is after the onboarding process has begun as a kind of welcoming letter of, hey,
correct.
we're excited to be working with you. We want to let you know that you're part of our customer family, and this is something we're excited to be doing together.
Yeah,
Along the way, you're looking at these opportunities to kind of touch them in a personal way that they're perhaps no longer experiencing just because of the digital age that we're living in. The other thing that you point out, and it's appropriate, is you've got the anniversaries of sorts. It's been a year since we've been working with you as a client. It's the birthdays, but it's also the holiday type things. How often do you now actually send out Christmas cards, or let's say thank you cards, and they're now these printed ones? Well, now let's go ahead and make it a little bit more personable, because we can take that Christmas card that we may be sending out and make it something a little bit more customary. So I do feel that there's this application of it as it relates to client engagement and working with them. So is there anything more that you would add as to a good use or application?
Well, to your point on the post-sale follow-up or post-meeting sales meeting follow-up, we see clients that have closings, raise 20% because of that, because they're standing out and doing something a little different than everybody else is. Everybody else is just sending an email. I'm sure you'll send an email after the fact too, but if you follow it up with a handwritten note, the handwritten note, much like for the piano tuner, is durable, meaning it is literally standing up on their desk. There are so many times when I call people that we're prospecting and I say, did you receive the handwritten note we sent you 3 weeks, a month ago? And they say, of course, it's sitting right here. Well, how many emails would they say it's sitting right here, or even remember that you sent them an email? But a handwritten note is a low cost, high value way to do that. To give you an example, another professional services firm, an SEO company, wanted to win our business, and they sent me this card. It came in a FedEx, so that cost $25-$30 to FedEx it to me. I got the card, and when I opened it up, there was no writing, but there was a little screen in it. And the screen started playing a video that was so boring. I didn't watch more than a second and a half of it. It was the most corporate blather I've ever seen. And all I could think was, what a waste to spend all this money on this gimmick that was very distracting, because as an engineer, all I want to know is, how does this work? What's the CPU in it, whatever. And then also, how much money are they going to make off me? What is my margin to them if they're willing to blow $30 on a prospect they've never met? They could have created a more genuine interaction, a less distracting one that I would have read had they just sent me a handwritten note. But instead, everybody these days either wants the latest, greatest gimmick, or just email. So there's opportunity there. So I can't overstate the value of the durability of this, that it stands on people. I mean, I have handwritten notes behind me right here that I've had for a year or more. And I think that's pretty common. That's just how people operate. I was at a conference for law firms in Maryland, and members of the conference who received a ton of marketing from other people attending that conference, and of course they received ours too, they said, yeah, your marketing was the only one that ended up on my desk, because all the rest of the marketing got filtered out by the admin, the secretary, whatever. It didn't make it to the person's desk. But handwritten notes skip all that. They go straight to the person you want them to go to. So there's huge opportunity there. And you really can't really overestimate the value of sending a birthday card or Christmas card. And, we're right in the thick of Christmas season now as we record this. And we have clients saying, I want to send 100 handwritten notes to my clients. And my response to that is, gee, before you found a service like my service, Handwritten, your view was, let's send 100 handwritten notes because that's what we can do. They take a lot of time to send around the office and get everybody's input on them, or, to address them and write the little note on the inside. But if you have the opportunity to scale that, and for the same price or less, send 1,000 or 5,000 Christmas cards to your sphere of influence, how much more impact is that going to have? So people kind of need to open up the aperture on what's possible. If you're using a tool like Handwritten, not to replace the sentiment, but to replace the logistics.
Yes, I like this. Now, one of the things that I'd like to then bring up is pricing and luxury. And here's my context. A lot of time in the accounting profession, one of the things that we try to do is get paid well for the services that we offer. And pricing typically becomes an issue of concern or question for accounting professionals because they just struggle sometimes changing how they're pricing their services, increasing the pricing for their services year over year. It's always this dilemma. But one of the things that we want to do is obviously get paid well for our services and to create that allure of luxury, of premium service, that they're getting that exceptional experience. And I wonder, how could this personalized note perhaps enhance our ability to distinguish ourselves not as a commodity, but a luxury service that they're actually being well taken care of?
I mean, I think anytime, people buy emotionally. It's been proven over and over again. And then they also buy from people, not brands.
Mhm.
So, by creating that personal connection, I think it does provide you greater leeway to raise prices. I mean, we have luxury brands using us, some of the largest in the world, handbag manufacturers and clothing, perfume, cologne type brands using
Yeah,
us, luxury eyewear for that specific reason, because it's the luxury touch. Everything that we do is a thick, toothy cardstock. Well, we have two. We have thick, toothy cardstock vellum, and then we also do have kind of glossier stuff if you have a very saturated image on your card. But I recommend that thick, toothy cardstock because it gives that premium feel and kind of connotes that, you as a client or as a prospect really matter. And, we are going to provide the same care to you that you expect. And I think there's definitely opportunity there to, capture that value and really just appeal on the emotional sense where, again, people remember how you made them feel and they buy emotionally. So I think I
that's
think
right.
it's certainly capable of doing that there. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think is very important as part of this conversation is really recognizing that with digital communications, the text, the emails, with AI, I think a lot of things are moving us away from that personal
Yeah.
interaction and that emotion that we're talking about here that this clearly can accomplish. So, the next thing I'd like to understand is as it relates to your service, clearly the accounting professional, all of us can be handwriting letters. I mean,
Mhm.
that what we've described as strategies and things that can be done manually right now. So
Yeah.
none of this is something that necessarily requires a technology of any sort. So the question I want to ask is, what's that tipping point that basically says someone ought to consider a service such as yours versus doing this manually as they perhaps can and should be doing?
Yeah. So, I think that varies for everybody, but I'm
Mhm.
on this podcast not to talk about handwritten with a Y. I'm here to talk about handwritten with an I, doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And also the I, you are I, you're doing it yourself. That said, when it gets to a point, after you see the value in it and what it can do to your relationships, then I think you should scale it. Your time, I'm sure at your school, you talk a lot about prioritizing time and activity. And
Yeah.
is your time best served as a secretary, as an admin, doing these administrative tasks of sending out handwritten notes, or is it best served serving your clients and doing the next financial statement or tax return? So I think you and your listeners need to determine what's the best way to spend your time, and what the logistics of which tasks can you offload. And a lot of people say, well, um, I'm not going to use a robot. I'll a service like yours, I'll do it ourselves. But what we find is it's often not a choice between doing it yourselves and handwritten. It's a choice between handwritten or nothing at all,
Correct.
because you see the value in it and you want to do it, but people get busy. And I can give you multiple examples of clients, including a high-end luxury cologne company, where this is that, and it's almost not enough. I mean, you could visit our website and type in the message and type in who it goes to and their address and all that, and you'll send out 50 of those a month, but you won't do more because even that's laborious. So how do we integrate with your platforms? How do we fully automate this end to end to create a consistent experience for your clientele? Because that's how you're really going to reap the real benefits, is not doing one-off handwritten notes, although that's fantastic. And maybe you should just sit down and do that with pen. But when you want to create a consistent branding in your organization that says, we care, we're going to send you one or two or four handwritten notes a year, that's when I think you should, start talking to a company like Handwritten.
I like
Uh,
that. As I look at it for the accounting business, you've got 20 clients, perhaps that's something you can manage and hand
yeah,
write. But if you're a tax firm and you've got 500 tax returns that you're doing each year and you've got 500 customers that you're wanting to stay engaged with, and coincidentally, you have access to their birth dates, all of a sudden that takes it to a whole new dynamic simply because I don't know that I could
yeah,
physically write 500 cards. And I have in the past, like say at Christmas time in sending out Christmas cards, done nothing more than sign my signature. And I can attest to the fact that after doing so many, your hand does start to cramp up. But yet it's still essential, I think, is to this relationship we're talking about, this experience that we're trying to foster with our clients, that they actually have that type of a connection or experience with us as it relates to this personal handwritten note.
yeah.
So
We,
one,
to your point, and sorry to interject,
yeah,
when we sign up new clients that hit a certain hurdle, I automate a handwritten note from our CRM out to them, providing my why. You talked
mhm,
about kind of the engagement letter and then sending a handwritten note after. We do that. So if you spend a certain amount with us, you're going to receive a whole swag pack from Handwritten, and then you're also going to get a letter from me explaining, I started this company to deepen relationships with brands and their customers, and make sending a handwritten note is easier than sending an email. So you get my whole backstory.
yeah.
And I think it's important that you connect who you are as a company with the client. And again, it's to build that emotional connection. So we've done all that in an automated fashion. And it's really amazing what you can do these days with some simple automations, whether that's Zapier or N8N or one of these other platforms, or directly within Salesforce or whatever your system is. We integrate with them all. So yeah, it's very easy once you make that decision that, let's not just reach out to them through email and text. Let's try to get a little deeper.
I like this. No, this is a great conversation. I'm going to switch gears on us a little bit
Sure.
here. You sold your business back in 2012, and in the selling of the business, I want to kind of look at it from an accounting perspective.
Yeah.
How were the financials a part of that selling? Not only the valuation of the business and the transaction itself, but how was having the accounting information current, accurate, and so forth helpful in that transaction from your point of view?
Well, it's critical. We were actually a I'm surprised they acquired us. We were a cash-based accounting at the time.
Mhm.
One thing I would say is I wish I would have known about the 1202 conversion, the qualified small business stock. That would have saved me substantial money in my new firm. Handwritten is set up with that in mind.
Okay.
That was the biggest thing. But having good our bookkeeper at the time, or our accountant at the time, was a single man accounting firm, and some of his ledger entries were written. And he sent us faxes of handwritten ledger entries, which was kind of ironic. But we were able to get the deal done. It ended up being an asset sale due to Handwritten, or sorry, Sell It was an LLC, and the company that acquired us was I believe, a C corp. There was something where they needed it as an asset sale. I mean, this is
Yeah.
going back 14 years now, something like that. So 15 years. So yeah. So yeah, that but overall, having those, it was absolutely critical to have numbers. And I can, now, even though I'm not looking to sell Handwritten, it's very important to keep those numbers up to date in case there is an opportunity. And you always want to build, or I want to build my company for an eventual sale. I'm not saying it's right around the corner, but making sure it's the company is structured appropriately. So we're no longer cash, we're accrual, we're a C corp for the QSBS, and we've done quality of earnings and all that good stuff.
Interesting. You actually answered my second question, which is since you've sold and now you're
Yeah.
running this business, what are you doing differently with your
Oh yeah.
accounting because of that transaction? What did you learn that you're doing differently now? And you basically answered that. So thank you
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all of it. And quite frankly, the switch to accrual was recent, and it's
Mm,
caused some pretty dramatic changes in how we uh, or how we sell our services. Because for a long time we were doing prepaid, so you could come to Handwritten and get a discount by buying a bunch of handwritten notes in advance, and then
uh-huh.
send them over up to 3 years. Well, that creates a huge prepaid or a deferred revenue liability. So we decided in talking to our accounting firm, this is not the way to go. So we've reduced the life of those credits to 1 year. So if you sign up for that, you will only have 1 year to use them. But we're really moving people to invoice pricing where you pay every month. And there's we can get into pricing if you're interested. But the accounting decisions have changed the business itself. So there's been a pretty substantial shift in how we are running our business strictly to ensure maximum value upon a sale of Handwritten down the road.
This is phenomenal. I love this because as a business owner, your perspective is so important. So that recent transition from cash to accrual accounting,
Yep.
what do you feel has been the biggest advantage to you as the business owner as you're running your business with that new perspective, not cash, but accrual accounting?
Well, it's definitely tying, I mean, this is all, I guess, accounting 101, but it's tying effort to revenue and cost. So, let's go back when we were just a cash-based company, and I should have known better, but we're a small business and we have to do what we can to get by. So when we were a cash-based company in the prepaid, we'd sign up somebody on a prepaid plan 3 years ago, and we'd collect their money and we'd quickly spend it to pay for rent or, salaries, whatever that is, paper,
Yeah.
stamps. The problem is then 3 years later, when the client decides to start sending notes, you're out paper, stamps, and salaries and rent, and it's very hard to tie it back.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to make sure there's enough money in the bank to cover it. So without doing it again and constantly having more prepaids come in to kind of refill the bucket. So switching to accrual and, being able to better tie expenses to revenue and effort has been, unfortunately, I'm not going to say it's a fully solved problem for us. We still have a number of accounts that are at least at the 1 year prepay, which is bad enough, but at least it's a more manageable situation than it was just 12 months ago.
I love it. The fact that you're able to articulate that is phenomenal. And as a business leader, you're in a position where you're leveraging the accounting information to make more informed business decisions. And it's clearly affecting your business model, how you're choosing to do business and interact with your customers, the pricing. I love the fact that that information from the accounting is helping you make those more intelligent decisions because it comes down to cash flow. I mean, definitely what you're describing is clearly the cash flow of the business. So that's fine. As a business owner, I have to ask, being an entrepreneur, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for great employees. I'm grateful, employees that put up with me. I'm grateful for a wife that puts up with me and the long hours. I'm grateful to be, and I'm not some political one side of the aisle or the other. I'm very centrist, but I'm grateful to be in a country that, in a state, Arizona, that really fosters entrepreneurship and new businesses.
Very good. I have to agree. We live in a great time and a great place. A lot to be grateful for. Well, David, this has been a wonderful conversation. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start moving towards wrapping things up, and I'm going to come back to you for a closing thought. As I begin this, I actually want to invite all of my listeners to an offer that David has extended. If you'd like to take advantage of this and see a little bit more about what his services include, he's giving us a discount, a savings that you can take advantage of in the episode description. It's a $20 savings. You can go and use the podcast coupon code and actually get a sampling of this service and give it a try. And I would encourage you to definitely consider doing so, if nothing else, to connect with your customers and give them a thank you card for the services that you're providing to them. This is something that you want to take advantage of today. So go to the episode description for that information so that you can get those savings now. As it relates to the call, I just want to actually summarize some of the things that really stood out to me. One, his journey from selling his business in 2012 to then seeing the need for something that's handwritten. And I think the conversation that we had as to why this is so valuable is important to realize that the emails today, the text messages, they're just not enough to provide that experience that I believe the customers are expecting. And when we're doing handwritten notes, they become a lot more tangible for the customer. Nobody's printing off the email that you sent them and putting it on the wall, but yet with a handwritten letter, you could actually find it now on that piano in the center of the living room. And I think that was a great illustration of how this is so different. The other part of this conversation is to them getting through the gatekeepers, and the fact that these handwritten notes are actually seen by the recipient, I think is a very key thing, because there is a lot of noise out there, whether it is the emails we're receiving, whether it is the text messages we're getting, or even the mails that we're getting together. Those things can get kind of overwhelming, but that handwritten note does make it through the noise of it all and gets to the recipient as it should. So I think those are great illustrations. The one that really stood out to me, though, is as we as accounting professionals try to change our pricing, increase our pricing, get paid what we're worth, to really no longer be considered that commodity, but a luxury service that is essential to the success of a business. To have that handwritten letter and actually distinguish our services differently from the others is so critical. I think it is just that icing on top of the cake of what we do to create an experience that the customer can really be impressed by. And I think that's something that these handwritten notes enable. Now, the thing that really is important to hear is near the end of the conversation, it was recognizing this isn't about using the service or automating it. It's simply recognizing the value in this and doing it manually, getting out there and leveraging handwritten notes as we once did, perhaps like I shared as a child, writing those birthday cards, writing those Christmas cards, writing those thank you notes to friends and family. Those things were things that stood out and were much well received. And I think that's an age gone by that we need to revisit. So doing it manually and then finding what can you do to then automate that process? Your time is so valuable. Is there something you can do to ensure that these are being done and not consuming your time writing out a letter as you have? So once you've proven that process, to then automate it and consider using a service very much like David's is definitely something worth looking into. And especially if you're like a tax firm, that makes a lot of sense to me with the hundreds of clients that you have. To simply send out a thank you letter sometime in the year, perhaps that birthday card, is definitely something that at the hundreds of volume, I don't know that I want to hand do. So it's clearly an illustration of the practical application of a service like this. So all those things being said, to top it off with what David is grateful for, I think was very, very helpful. But ultimately, it was that conversation about accounting, how as a business owner, he sees the value in the accounting information to run his business, and that transition he made from cash over to accrual. Very good illustration of that point. So many gems in this conversation. David, what would you like to end with?
No, I would just like to say, please visit handwritten.com. Use that coupon code podcast when you sign up. It's when you sign up. So you have to register and sign up. Use that code podcast, all one word. Or if you don't want to sign up, you can click business at the top and request a free sample kit, and we'll send one out to you right away. So
Beautiful.
please, send out handwritten notes with an I, and then when you're ready, switch to a Y and use a company like Handwritten.
Excellent. Love it. David, you're awesome. Here's what I'm going to do to wrap this up is, first of all, suggest, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to have you as a listener, someone that joins us each and every week for these different discussions to help you focus on the things that matter most in your business, ranging from marketing, selling, pricing, onboarding clients, tech stacks, training your staff, client retentions, even to mental health. These are episodes that you definitely want to take advantage of. Why? Because they will help you build the premier accounting firm in your area. Go to your preferred listening method for podcasts and subscribe. As it relates to free services, we have a few promotional things that I'd like to point out. The first of which is the Entrepreneurial Challenge. This is a portion of our give back program that we do for the accounting community. It's a 90-day challenge to actually help you work on both your personal and professional to in fact have the premier accounting firm in your area. It's where we're going to tackle various things related to time management, up to the business, your business plan and the services that you're offering. Just a variety of things that on a weekly basis come out that may be simply a 5-minute exercise for you to work on your current situation, to maybe a 15 or maybe an hour-long thing that you can be doing to improve your personal and professional well-being. As it relates to the Entrepreneurial Challenge, you want to go to universalaccounting.com, and there in the navigation, go to the free resource section, and you'll find in the free resource section a variety of things that you can take advantage of, but specifically sign up for the Entrepreneurial Challenge. In addition to that, I also want to invite you to GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. GrowCon is a conference you do not want to miss. It is each and every year in May, where we actually bring to the stage experts to help us understand understand what it is we should be doing this next year in our business to, in fact, offer quality accounting services and become the premier accounting firm in our area. It's here at the conference that you get to hear from the experts, but also meet your peers, collaborate with them, make friendships, build new connections. And with that, find out what others are doing who are in your space and be inspired by them as well. The other that I'd like to point out is you get to meet myself and my team, those individuals who are committed to helping you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal Accounting. So if you haven't already registered, join us for GrowCon. Get your ticket today. Go to universalaccounting.com and in the navigation, go to GrowCon for the specifics of the wins and the wheres and get your ticket now. As it relates to Universal Accounting, the sponsor of our show, we obviously offer a variety of programs designed to help individuals have the premier accounting firm. It's here that we offer training to assist you in offering quality accounting services, training yourself or your staff to offer bookkeeping, tax, and so forth. Definitely check out the various programs and see what it is you can do today to become certified as a professional accountant, bookkeeper, tax preparer, and as well, profit and growth expert offering quality CFO and advisory services. And with all that said, obviously, I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care, have a great day, and enjoy yourself. And always remember, if it's about accounting, it is universal. David, that was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed it, and I hope it's useful for your listeners.
Yeah, I think there were some nuggets in there, so I appreciate it. So here's what I'm going to have you do now. In the bottom left, I believe you have that private chat that you can open up with the text. I'm going to have you, when you're ready, record that. That's that promo piece where you're actually just helping us kind of promote the episode when it goes live.
Okay. This is David Wachs. It was fantastic to be with Roger on an episode of Building the Premier Accounting Firm. Let me start over here. It's hard to, hold on one second.
No, you're good.
I don't like looking in the bottom. Okay. Okay. This is David Wachs with Handwritten. It was great to record with Roger an episode of Building the Premier Accounting Firm. We discussed the power of the handwritten note. I invite you to listen and join us.
Perfect. I love it. All right. So here's what's going to happen.